음식도 찍으셨나요?
That's fair enough.
오늘 이렇게 참석해주신 모든 분들께 감사의 말씀을 전합니다. 특히 제니퍼, 에이미, 보니타, 로사박 선생님한테 감사드리고요. 그다음에 노인의 유재우 회장님 감사드리고요. 그다음에 자유총연맹 송유상 사장님, 회장님 감사드리고요. 그다음에 무역인협회 정용준 회장님 감사드립니다. 그다음에 여성의 부회장 김순 부회장님 감사드리고 그 외에도 그다음에 문영석 교수님 그 외에도 관심 가지고 와주신 모든 분들께 감사드리고요. 그다음 저희 단체는 한국 이름으로는 나눔정원이고요. 영어로는 Garden of Compassion Society입니다. 우리의 첫 번째 미션과 목표는 노인분들을 위한 봉사이고요.
So my name is Amy Lubeck. I am a city councilor in Port Moody. My other hat is I work for Fraser Health in climate change and health research and outreach. And so I also thank Sophia for helping share information with the community on keeping people safe in extreme heat and the smoke that we've been seeing, which is a very important issue for seniors. I'm going to plug that at every opportunity I get, because there are some folks who are more vulnerable to these kind of issues, and seniors are some of them. So if we can share that information with people, especially what they can do to be safe, it's very important. And that's probably a good lead-in into why I'm in politics in the first place. So I come from a very strange background for a politician. I come from a healthcare background. I started in cancer research, and from there, I started learning about something called the social determinants of health.
Thank you. 이름이 Jennifer Bladwick입니다. 만나서 반갑습니다. That is all there is. So thank you for having me here today. So currently I serve as a school trustee here in Coquitlam for the last 6 years. So in Canada, we have a system where there's elected officials that are in charge of the school district. And that's been my honor to be in that position for the last 6 years. And so I also work as the executive director of a nonprofit that does outreach to children who are at risk. So mental health, homelessness, addiction, neglect. So we do street outreach as well as we do one-on-one social work. We do food programming, and we do mental health programming. People who are Korean or of Korean heritage who have leadership positions in social work fields. We are not at a place yet where people who have lived experience, who have knowledge, are helping make policy. And I am really hoping that as we go forward, our understanding of all of each other will be made broader by moving that forward, by having more leaders from the Korean community who have Korean heritage, who can talk about specific Korean issues.
Annyeonghaseyo, everyone. I'm Bonita, the Member of Parliament for Port Moody Coquitlam, and I just really want to thank Sophia and May and all for organizing this today and all the work that you've done over the many years to connect community. Lovely to be here with Jennifer and Amy as well, who we've all known each other for 10 years or more. So I come to my political career as a woman. I'm the oldest one sitting at the table today. And I followed my husband's career for most of my younger life with my kids. So when we moved here from Montreal in 2010, I too was the primary caregiver because my husband took a job and I needed to figure it out. When the husband moves for work and employment, the wife has to figure it out. So I had to do the swimming lessons, the schools, all of this, and find a new job. And that's what motivated me to get into politics, because it was hard. It wasn't easy. And I was Canadian from Canada. I knew some of the intersections with CRA for income tax purposes. I knew about employment insurance, that I knew how to go and get it. I knew many things that if you're new to Canada, you don't necessarily know. So I was really motivated by that, and I worked 25 years in business as a business analyst. I worked in the grocery industry in the United Kingdom, in the United States, and across Canada. I've lived in every province in Canada, except for some in the Maritimes, only Newfoundland. When I got to I was initially a city councillor, the same as Amy, and when I got to the city council table, I realized there was not equity. And it's my anniversary today. I love my husband, and of course, men have driven the economy for a long time, but women have also needs in the economy. And I was fortunate enough to live in Montreal for 2 of my kids, and I got $5 a day daycare. And I say the reason I'm sitting in the House of Commons as a member of Parliament right now is because I could afford, our family could afford the $5 a day so that my daughter could go to daycare, and so I could go back to school to be a business analyst. So when I got to the council table, I saw that still women were excluded from the conversations. Women were excluded, and our needs around social issues were excluded. And that's how I came to the NDP, because of course we need business, and I ran a Korean procurement thing with the Government of Canada. Of course we need business, but we need the balance as well of healthy communities and healthy families, and I really wanted to highlight those needs. So transit is important. We know in Ottawa right now they're going to cut down transit during the day. They're trying to save money to cut transit during the day. We know that caregivers are the most used transit during the day, the most caregivers. So when we cut down transit during the day, we cut down those visits for caregivers. We cut down the opportunity for seniors to go out during the day. When it's dark, seniors don't want to go out. They do not, they need to do their travel in the day. Daycare, we're talking about senior daycare. Daycare is important. I've been out on the doorsteps recently, and there are a lot of aging parents out there. There are a lot of people, and I'm sure the same that you're dealing with as well, aging parents that need support. I was on a doorstep recently, a family, when their senior loved ones goes into hospital, many times the family comes from other cities or around, and they need support, income support, and housing and opportunities to be able to support that aging parent. So all of this is in my mind as the Member of Parliament. I want to do what I can to raise awareness about the tax credits that are available for caregivers. There is a tax credit if you are caring for a spouse who may be ill, a child with a disability. One of the things that I know is many families have family members they live with that have a disability, which hasn't necessarily been, there hasn't been a lot of opportunity for accessibility in the way we build cities and community. Here in Canada, there are tax credits available, there are programs available. Yes, we are behind, but there are opportunities. So those are the type of things that I really wanted to focus on. Sophia, May, you are connectors, because a lot of elected officials that are making policy are not Korean, are not Korean speaking. And these are key connectors that make sure that these points are accessible.
저는 이제 오늘 다시 또 인사를 드리면 너무 감사하고요. 이 시간에 같이 참석해 주셔서, 그리고 이 금요일 불금의 저녁날에 이렇게 귀한 시간을 해주셔서 감사하고, 저는 현재는 아메이다 시니어스 커뮤니티의 총괄 매니저로 있습니다. 저희 이제 백그라운드는 SFU에 이제 마스터 디그리를 했고요. 그리고 이전에 이제 한 5년 정도 Success Non-Profit Organization에서 그 인터그레이션 카운슬러 매니저로서 또 임플로이먼트 카운슬러로서 이렇게 한 5년 정도 근무를 했었어요. 그래서 이제 이민자에 대한 어려움들, 그리고 또 시니어들이라든지 또 칠드런을 가지고 있는 분들에 대한 그런 도움을 드려야 되고, 또 사실 정부가, 이 캐나다 정부만이 유일하게 또 가지고 있는 장점들이 참 많아요. 근데 우리 또 한국이 또 엄청 또 좋아져가지고 지금 또 컴페어하는 부분들도 있긴 한데, 여기 안에 들어있는 그 소스들을 좀 잘 활용하면, 그리고 오늘같이 이렇게 보이스를 좀 올리는 기회가 되면 저희들 커뮤니티에 어떤 얘기 꼭 꼭 오리라고 봐요. 그래서 같이 하고 같이 보이스를 내주시고 시간 내서 이렇게 참석하시는 거게 아마 앞으로 우리 커뮤니티에 큰 도움이 되지 않을까 싶습니다. 그래서 현재 저는 아메이다에서 근무하고 있는 경력은 한 8년 정도 되네요. 네, 오늘 다시 감사드립니다.
So my question to everybody here is that I hear about the social connections and affordable housings and everything, but what about the actual educational approaches to have the seniors to prevent dementia or who started developing the dementia, then how to actually minimize their progress of the disease or those kind of things?
And because they had to learn how to break things down, think creatively, and think outside the box. And the best way we did cooperation with this was to work with seniors at the pavilion. So we would team them up and have the seniors work on the problems too, but also maybe be judges of the kids. And so the kids would come, work with the seniors, talk with them. And because the two things together, creative problem solving, learning how to think creatively, but also social connection at the same time. Mm-hmm. So it generated these really valuable brain connections that protected against things like dementia and the loneliness, right? So children and seniors together is magic, but it takes a lot of staff time to make those connections be quality for everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add just one sentence for that. As my experience, just living together with the seniors, dementia never gets cured. Mm-hmm. But there is a sustainable opportunity if they get the same languages and same food, and it's just that kind of remaining the status, not faster, but still there is still progress, but it still is a little slower than living alone themselves. Everything needs to get supported, like a pharmacist medication, and support the environment, and still the doctor has to work together. Then it's the progress is we can delay.
Because I loved what was said, and there's actually quite a few things that cities can do around dementia care. And I think that it's important to just mention a couple of them. The first time I ever went door knocking during an election, so meeting everybody, telling them why you're running, I met people on the doorstep that were dealing with dementia. And one of the things that I had been researching was dementia-friendly cities. And so that is a city, and Port Moody is working toward this, where their city staff get training on how to work with people who have dementia. So that, because it's frustrating when you it's very frustrating when you're dealing with dementia. There's confusion. You have good days and bad days, and staff don't necessarily know that, but there are ways to recognize. So there's staff training. There's workshops for caregivers, and we've done that with our library as well. As well as I talk about community design a lot, but things like benches, having them spaced very evenly for people to be able to go for walks easily. But also, sometimes we do artistic street furniture, but we have to be careful about that, because if people don't recognize a bench for a bench, you don't necessarily know that's where you can sit down and take a rest. And I never thought about that until I learned about dementia-friendly cities. So that's something that Port Moody is working on. We're also, one of the key points that you guys highlighted was that connection. Using your brain not only for that stimulation, but also to take care of people and to feel like you have a connection is there are a lot of studies that actually slows down the progress of dementia. And so we have just finished developing actually social connectedness guidelines for new developments. So that means that there are pockets and places within new developments where people and neighbors can get to know each other. And that's really, really helpful for our mental wellness. So that's something that we're working on, as well as intergenerational programming. Teaching and learning is so important. And I think Port Moody is also City of the Arts. So we have a lot of programs on arts for seniors. And that creativity and creation is so important for your mental health and stimulation. And there are more, I don't think we have that many day programs on that yet for seniors, but I think that's an important piece of the work that we could do. And I am always very excited when we talk about food. So when folks talked about the food that you recognize, we're starting to try to get new developments to have more diverse grocery stores. Because we have a more diverse population. And we can't necessarily say you must have this grocery store, but we can try to convince the developers to get that kind of a Korean grocery store, a South Asian grocery store in development, so people can have the food that we all connect with home and with family and those lovely memories. And another reason why I get excited about that is those types of stores tend to have cheaper produce. And we're all having trouble making our ends meet when it comes to food prices these days. So thank you, Bonita, for working on that. So those are a couple of the things that cities can do on dementia. And those are some of the things that we're working on.
저는 시니어입니다. 지난 5월부터 CDCP, 즉 치과 의료보험이 시작됐습니다. 그런데 노인 틀니 부분에서 부분 틀니에는 보험 적용이 안 되고 전체 틀니에만 할인돼 있습니다. 즉 이가 하나도 없어야지만 혜택이 된다는 얘기거든요. 반면에 한국은 정반대예요. 부분 틀니에 혜택을 주고 있어서 많은 노인들이 이용을 하고 있습니다. 왜 이런지 이유는 우리가 알 수가 없어요. 그렇지만 여기 이 지역에서도 개선을 해서 보다 많은 노인들이 부분 틀니를 보험 혜택이 있기를 바랍니다.
Thank you for that, and I had that question before, so I'm prepped for it, so thank you so much. Yes. Before I do get into answering it, though, I want to just make sure if there's one thing that you take away from the federal portion of this talk today is please make sure that you file your income tax, or you file the income tax for your elderly parents as well. Even if there's no income, even if you have no income, file those income tax, because when your income tax is filed, the government knows that they can send you a letter about the Canada Dental Program, or they can make sure that you have the guaranteed income supplement coming. For my own mother, she lost her husband about 5 years ago, and then she just recently went through cancer, so she had many things going on in her life, and she did not file her income tax for 4 years. So I went in and filed at least her last 2 years so that she is eligible for all these programs. So please, please, please make sure that you file your income tax so that we can get you those programs. So I want to talk specifically about the partial denture. So it is covered. The partial denture is covered. The coverage depends on the professional opinion of your dentist, though, on some of these pieces, like the partial denture. So you would need to have your dentist say, yeah, we need these things, and then it would go for authorization just like any other insurance plan. But yes, it's a fully comprehensive plan that does the full denture as well as the partial denture as well as the crown, all those other things you need. But you do need to have, like other insurance plans, you do need your dentist to have to say, yes, this is necessary.
I'm very happy with the senior. My goal is how can give some fund for senior. So I searched the how many community center in Coquitllam and Bonita. So both training about training by Google, and then I checked this how many senior is there. So Bonita is the 40,000, and then Coquitllam is 20,000. So Coquitllam is better than Bonita. And then I walked from my home to community center, walk about 15 minutes. So my point is, community center is very nice. They have lots of programs, but very difficult to contact there. So very old, and then so they cannot go, even though the program is perfect. For example, Korea, I'm sorry, compare Korea, but we have some kind of 노인정, meaning it's salon of a senior. So in a town, near my home, so they can contact very easily. So the salon, the senior is not need a big space, just a small space. They can control themselves with volunteer and small rule. They can do something, play something. So I think here, so Bonita and Coquitlam got a lots of condominium. They have gym and then playground, something, but no senior town. So if you are possible, just to think about for senior to play something, so will be better. That is my first question. And second question is, they wanna get some small job. They can do something. You can give them some money, monthly money, but sometimes hand the money to grandson, you know. So if they get some job, they can play or they can get some more benefit. I'm sorry, my English is poor, but yeah, that is my question.
So I'm sure there's a lot of city stuff here too that you could talk about, so I'm going to pass it to you, Amy, after this, but I did want to talk about something in Port Moody. So there is actually federal land right now that is available to be building housing, and I think this is the perfect opportunity for something. There's one in Port Moody. It's called 45 Mary Street. It's a post office that's now closed. I'm actually planning to do a press conference there next week to talk about how the federal government should get it together. I think that the city and the province have already said there's funds available for people in Port Moody. I'd like to talk about that. So if anybody here today would like to come, one or two folks, okay, you're in. We want to raise this with the government because the government has this land. They have partners in the community that are willing to do the work. So that's exactly what I've actually spoken even to the mayor of Port Moody about this, is to have a space for seniors there. And then the other thing on employment, we did a study when I first got elected in 2021. We did a study on the care economy. That was the study that I really wanted to do. And we made a recommendation to the government federally in that study that there should be incentives for seniors to be able to work. But where's our president of this women's seniors organization here? There's the president here for the women's group. Many Korean women have come to talk to me about wanting part-time work. I know I did talk to IKEA at one point about maybe having an open house or something. I know this is an area that needs exploration, and it would be fun to think about doing that, Jennifer, when you're the MLA as well. But I'm going to pass it to Amy.
I have been taking lots of notes. So thank you so much for that question. I think what you're saying around the salons in condo buildings, that fits really nicely with the social guidelines that I was talking about that we'll be doing. Because in some of we worked with a group called, just making sure I'm not going too fast. We worked with a group called Happy Cities, and they actually look at connecting people again in their condo buildings, in their developments. And I live in a condo building that has a rec center. It's and a lot of people use it. And my previous place that I lived, it has a rec room that nobody uses. It's not really programmed. Sometimes people rent it out for a birthday, but it's a space that sits empty. And so we need to figure out, there are ways to program those spaces so people know they can use it. And I know there's a choir, in my new building, there's a choir that uses it, people's birthdays, I'm sure volunteer groups. So there's ways to develop those spaces. But we as a city have to make sure that they're there. It's up to the city to say you need to have that. As well as I know that our Seniors Focus Committee has been working specifically on what would be needed for a seniors center in general for Port Moody, because we don't have a designated seniors center. We have the Seniors Friendship Center, which is just kind of behind I'm not sure if everybody knows Port Moody off by heart, but it's not too far from the SkyTrain, and they do have senior specific programming. So that's something that we're working on as well. We're also, I started thinking about recreation because I heard small rooms in the rec center, but I do think it's important. We've been doing a lot of work with, we call it pop-up parks. So when you mention you need things close to where you live, there's a lot of small parks in our communities that people don't necessarily use because there's nothing going on there, kind of like the room that I mentioned. But we've been working with city staff to put things like mini golf, or we were definitely working on pickleball for seniors. That's a big one. But also things like benches and places where you could have conversation rooms and things like that. So we can program spaces to encourage people to be able to come together for whatever they need in those smaller parks that right now we don't use that much. But as soon as you see someone doing that, then you think, oh yeah, I could do that too. Everyone has their things that they love, and we need to make sure that we have access for everybody to those things.
So this is my turn. That Canada is notorious for its high funeral cost. So then we have the Korean seniors. They already have their land for the land after funeral. They planned prior, but still a lot of the seniors that they are not prepared, especially for the low-income seniors.
Yeah.
So cremation costs a minimum is 4,000 to 5,000, excluding actually funeral expenses. While burial costs range from at least $15,000 to several tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the region. So the burden on those left behind is increasing. And also I heard that in the hospital, there's a lot of low income,
Yes.
dead bodies there.
Yeah.
Right now, that's issues. And also we understand there are some funeral subsidies, but they are not really particularly is helpful. So the difficulties are even greater for elderly individuals living alone without family. So we need a more substantial funeral subsidy for low-income groups. So which level of government can provide assistance in this matter?
Maybe I will start. So one of the things that happens in British Columbia, across Canada, is that commercial funeral homes who are for-profit businesses are very aggressive about seeking out business. It is their business. It is how they make money. But there are non-profit societies that will do the same services. So the Memorial Society of British Columbia will do a cremation for $300. Yes. So you can sign up to become a member, and they will give you $50 for your whole life. You will be a member, and they give you a 10% discount. So they will conduct the entire service, including all of your paperwork, everything, all of the things for $1,300. And if you're a member, 10% discount.
Wow.
So this is something I am familiar with because when I cared for both sets of my grandparents as they got older, and they did not want to spend $4,000, $10,000 on because they wanted to give that money to children, grandchildren. They said no service because they did not want to waste that money. And so my father's mother belonged to a society like that, and certainly I recommend it to everyone because it is a nonprofit. But of course, that does mean they have a very low budget for advertising. So unless you know about it, you don't know about it. So I am sharing it with you. I will say one more time, Memorial Society of British Columbia, and they have, their main office is actually here in Port Coquitlam. So yeah, so very close. And so please look them up because you're right. No one needs to be spending $4,000 to $10,000. All of that money should be spent on family or celebrating, not on a service that is for profit.
Oh, thank you so much for the information. Especially we have a few residents there. They don't have family members, and they're really low income seniors. Then we can definitely contact with them. Okay. So they want to have their future plan. Yeah. So then if they know this one, I just really appreciate. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bonnie.
And can I just add very quickly, if I know there's some folks in the room too that maybe have kids looking for work, and it doesn't mean children, but like adult kids that are looking for work. We have a shortage of people that can work in cemeteries in BC. There is a real need, and it's a really wonderful job. You can reach out to municipalities about it, but yeah, We need workers in cemeteries that are able to have that compassionate side, but also are able to drive a backhoe and be able to do that work. Well, I think if you can drive a backhoe, it might be a really good fit, actually. Yes, absolutely. They've got the compassion and the life experience. I'll also say there is a $2,500 federal benefit for pensioners when they pass.
지금 그 캐나다의 두 가지 가장 급박한 문제는 주택 문제이고 또 하나는 의료 문제입니다. 의료 문제가 너무너무 느려요. 제가 2008년에 제가 안식년이어서 UBC에 와서 개공교습 1년을 있었는데 어느 날 운동을 하다가 제 어깨를 다쳤어요. 그래서 그 워킹 클리닉에 갔는데 그 의사가 나보고 피지오테라피를 하라고 했는데 두 달이나 석 달을 해도 효과가 없어서 스페셜리스트를 만나고 싶다고 했는데 그때가 그 6월 7월이었는데 스페셜리스트한테서 연락이 온 것은 11월 달이었어요. 2년 전에 제가 다시 코비드에 걸렸어요. 코비드에 걸렸는데 얼마 후 제가 느낀 것은 내가 후각을 상실했다는 거예요. 후각 냄새를 맡을 수가 없어요. 그래서 이제 다시 올해 6월 24일 날 그 이비인후과 그 스페셜리스트를 만났는데 나한테 아마 그 이글리지에서 그 CT 촬영이 필요하겠다. 근데 아직까지 연락이 없어요. 6월 24일 만났는데. 근데 세크레터리한테 연락을 했더니 아마 maybe 11월 달 정도 연락이 갈 거라고. 그래서 이제 사실 CD 하나 찍는데 3, 4개월씩 걸리는 건 심각한 문제. 이 질문 바로 이런 내용입니다.
So I'm going to just, on the federal level, because you asked me specific, and then I'm going to pass it over to Jennifer Blatherwick just on the municipal or on the provincial level. So you're absolutely right. This is a federal. This is an issue across the country of highest importance. And when I started my talk today, I talked about how the social issues have been ignored. They haven't had the same balance and the priority that the economic issues have had, and they should be equal to each other. So I'm going to get a little bit partisan and political here, I'm sorry, but on the federal level, there is Canada's Health Act, and it's up to the provinces to implement the Canada Health Act. And the Conservative government over 12 years ago rolled back the funding that was coming from federal government. So the federal Conservatives rolled back that funding that our communities needed. When the Liberals came in 2015, they did not up that funding. They did not up funding that was going to be shared with the provinces to make sure that we're getting the health care we need. So that's one piece of it. But the second piece of it is that, and I know it's my father-in-law's in Eagle Ridge Hospital right now. He's been there for almost 2 months. He's 91. He's not going to come home. We're working right now to find a spot for him to go, and that's happening to many, many folks right now. We know in BC there's issues, right? We know that we need more doctors, we need more investments, but I look at the Conservative-run provinces, Alberta, Ontario, the access to healthcare is despicable right now with the Conservative premiers there. So I think it's important here in BC, although our wait times are long, too long. I hear in your story, it's difficult to hear, and I'm sorry that you're experiencing that because it's important to get it done. I know they're triaging the best that they can. I am hopeful and inspired by what the BC government's been doing right now. Over 800 new doctors. Is that in the last year? I'm going to pass it to you.
Thank you. So my parents, Doctors John and Carol Blatherwick, have practiced medicine in British Columbia for more than 70 years combined. And this has been a problem for a long time. And there's two ways that you can deal with this problem, right? One is you have to keep the doctors you already have. And it was very challenging to keep primary care doctors, the physician, your regular GP. It was hard to keep them because they did not increase the rates of pay for a long time. So when my mother-in-law, Carol, was practicing as a GP, if she did a phone consultation with you, she could charge the government $1.
What?
So what would happen is that as doctors got older or new doctors came in, they would try and practice as GPs, too expensive, and they could not do it. And so we would lose them. And so I am very proud that after years of advocating, this last year we have raised the rates for the doctors, primary care physicians, and we are now retaining them, so they are staying. And Bonita is quite right that over this last year, because of some of the policies in other provinces, even though there is a doctor shortage across Canada, we have managed to hire 800 new family doctors to come here. Now, it will take some time to make changes because the other thing you can do other than retain the doctors you have is grow new ones, right? Because we need new doctors, young doctors to take place. And so I'm very happy just this few months ago, they announced that they are opening the first new medical school in Western Canada in 55 years. So it will be new medical school out in Surrey. Because we need both things. We need to keep the doctors we have, we need to grow more, and we need to make them want to stay here and practice here. And that means making sure that we continue a respectful relationship. So GPs are the front line, they are the defense. The other thing that we really need to do is make sure that we improve, dramatically improve, qualification for internationally trained medical professionals. My dad, Dr. John, has been working on this his whole life. So he used to be the head of Vancouver Coastal Health, and he was also working in the reserve. So he worked in the base on Discovery in Stanley Park. And so when people would come and they would want to become professionals here, he would say, okay, you are all trained, you just need 6 months of practice to go under a Canadian physician, and then you will be able to practice here. And so he would say, I will put you in Fort Nelson, I will put you in Saskatchewan, I will, wherever it is that I need to fit you in a military base, you can go, and then you will be approved. But then he retired, and the system stopped working because we had less positions for people to get that 6-month internship than were graduating out of medical school in our province. So even if a doctor or a nurse came here and took all of the training, they could not get a spot for that 6 months to become certified to be a medical professional in Canada. So that system is also changing because I am happy to have other people come here and bring their expertise and their skills. I do not need a well-trained physiotherapist to be driving a cab. I need them to be able to practice here in Canada. So I think if we keep working away on those three things, that if we are persistent and we are careful and we are determined and we listen to people, the professionals who tell us why they can't practice or who tell us why they need improvements, then we will make change. Now, I wish that I could tell you we could make change before November, but yes, but I send you my very best wishes. The last thing that I have heard about that we are trying to implement is working together in a medical practice building. So bringing specialists from all disciplines together to make a medical hub so that instead you would go to your primary care physician and then they would be able to recommend you to a heart specialist in the next office. So that instead of you going through this process where you wait and you wait and you wait, then we can get it taken care of immediately. Right now, they're piloting this model in units called the Foundry, and that's focusing on care for youth. So it's youth health and youth mental care. And so there's pilot projects now seeing how we can make this work. I would really like to see this sooner rather than later rolled out into medical care across the province. But again, you need time, you need staff, you need money, and grit. So don't stop talking to all of your elected officials about this, because when they know you care about it, they remember and they go back and they talk to other people about it, they advocate for it. Thank you for your question.
So then we had, at MBA, then we had a discussion about the healthcare system in Canada. So we had a potential operational solutions with 10 of them. There's a pros and cons. So before you're answering that, if there's any consideration about our ideas, then
I would love to hear that.
There's 10 of them. The first one is expand capacity by utilization of private practitioners. And the second, remunerating hospitals through activity-based funding. And the third, create a centralized surgical register and pool referrals. And the fourth, remove provincial restrictions on private payroll, financing, and delivery of medical necessary services. And the fifth was allow dual practice for physicians. And the sixth, revise what is covered by healthcare. And the seventh, require individuals to share in the cost of treatment. And the eighth is private financing. And then ninth is evidence-based allocation of residency positions. And the 10th, the physician factory education system. That is the 10th of our potential operation solution ideas from MBA students.
Thank you.
Hands off free. You can finish and individually.
Yes, sure.
Free. Free.
We can release people.
Yeah.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.